Okay. Took forever to get all this crap off the shelf, so it's better be worth it. Hi guys, we're talking about books today. So if you watch my content, you know that I've done a series called Candy Jack's Toy Box, where I talk about toys and collectibles that I have. Well, I thought, why don't we do a little bit of a spin-off series? Wow. This is going to be Candy Jack's bookshelf. I'm just going to talk about books that I have. Today's episode is going to be focused on Stephen King. Maybe you've heard of him. Growing up, my mom used to have a whole bunch of Stephen King books, so clearly she read him. But, I only really knew him from the movies for the longest time, till a few years ago I started reading them. So I'm just kind of going to go through these one at a time, I guess. Let me just kind of reach... Am I getting it? This is the first Stephen King book that I read right here. This is It. This is the one that they made the 2017 film based on, which I thought was just wonderful. The second half is kind of a little more hit or miss, a little bit more of a mess, but I enjoyed it regardless. I also enjoyed, this is from the 90s miniseries. I think it was 1990, they did a TV miniseries starring Tim Curry as Pennywise the Clown. I don't know who did this, but this is cute. It's a little balloon. You crack it open, and when you get it, there's slime inside. And then you have to dig out this little Pennywise head. Let's just get the toys out of the way real quick. This is not about toys, this is about books. I also have from Funko. They did a Gage in Church from Pet Sematary. So they're Funko Pops. I don't get a lot of Funko Pops, I'm not a huge fan, but every now and then I'll be like, oh, that one's kind of nice, I'll get it. So we're going to try and talk about all of these books. There's so many. I believe this is the first paperback edition of It. I got this one on eBay. This is, to date, probably the longest book I've ever read. But if you like sick, twisted stuff, like me, I'd give it a read. It's not bad. It's really good. Characters have depth to them. Got a great monster. The monster, again, being Pennywise, the dancing clown, aka It. So, he's not really like a clown. He's like, I guess, a space creature. But he can shapeshift into anything. And typically, he takes the form of this clown. Because I guess clowns are super spooky. He mainly kind of feeds off of the fear of children, I guess. Shut up, phone. I guess that's the gist. He feeds off the fear of children, so he has to shapeshift into whatever scares them the most. So yeah, if you've seen the 2017 movie or the miniseries, you probably get the gist. The book is a more complex version of it. It goes in a lot more detail. And it has some really cool scenes that I'm disappointed neither of the movie adaptations did. Mainly a death scene that involves Pennywise turning into these like flying leech creatures and attacking a kid. That actually kind of like gave me like a bit of a, ew, I don't like that, that's yucky. This is actually like a graphic novel or comic book. I don't know if you would consider this a graphic novel, but it's a comic book adaptation of the movie Creepshow, which Creepshow, Stephen King wrote the screenplay, if I'm understanding that correctly. Or they're at least all based off of stories he conceived. So yeah, I guess at some point Stephen King also worked on this to have it made into a comic book adaptation, so give you just an idea. And Creepshow, the movie, is sort of like a throwback to the Tales from the Crypt comics from the 50s. And the Creepshow movie may have helped the Tales from the Crypt TV show get made, so kind of like a neat little circle of influence. Next, we got Dreamcatcher. This is not one of my favorite Stephen King books, but it does have some cool stuff in it. Mainly alien worm creatures that explode out of your butthole. Everything's Eventual is a collection of short stories, and I'm going to say the same thing about all of his short story collections. I like some of them, I don't like some of them. This one is not my favorite collection in general. I think most of these didn't do it for me. Up next we have Cell, which has one of these. I gotta show you the cover, dang it. It does like a thing. So Cell, there we go. The cover opens and there's just a... I don't know, it's kind of neat, whatever. In this book, there's some sort of weird signal that goes through all the world's cell phones. And anyone that was on their cell phone at the time, I'm using this like a cell phone, anyone that was on their cell phone at the time turns into some sort of a mindless zombie thing. I will say, that's like my least favorite one, but I still got entertainment out of it, so if that tells you anything. Up next, we got Desperation. This one is this was, again, not one of my favorites. This had something to do with these people keep showing up in this little town called Desperation. I think it's like there's nobody there except like the sheriff guy who's actually possessed by some sort of demon, and this demon keeps like body swapping. It's actually very reminiscent of Jason Goes to Hell, also known as the most ridiculous Jason movie. But overall, nothing real special about this one. But then you get to this alternate universe book, The Regulators. So this is written by Stephen King's pseudonym, Richard Bachman. So Richard Bachman is Stephen King, but it's a pen name or a pseudonym, whatever you want to say. This is way better than Desperation. Open. Give you a little bit of a look at that. Desperation has one of those too. I think if you got the first editions, you could put the books together and it creates a combined image. But this one is really weird. I have to reread this one at some point. This one, it's like the demon in this one is controlling some kid, and things from the kid's imagination are appearing in real life. Like the kid draws something very crudely because he's a kid, and then a real life version of these crude drawings appears. Like I said, my memory's not fresh on all of these. I have to give some of these a reread, especially this one, because I know it was great. It's very imaginative and weird. Next we got Needful Things. This one's also pretty freaking huge, but I remember this always being one of the books that my mom had on her shelf. In this one, this creepy guy opens up a shop in this small town, and anyone that walks into the store finds something that they just have to have. But, you know, if they don't have the money for it, then he makes some sort of a weird deal. He's like, if you do this deed for me, you can have it. And it leads to a chain reaction of awful, horrible things. I got Firestarter here. This is one of his oldest books. This is the movie edition cover. It has, I think that's Drew Barrymore as a child. She was in the movie version. But this one has a girl that has fire powers. This one is probably, if not my all-time favorite, then it's in the top 3. This is Pet Sematary. This is just a really good, creepy, kind of old-fashioned style horror story. But it has a lot of depth to it. The characters are great. I know, it's just a really creepy story. And the movie they made in, I think it was 1989, that's fantastic as well. Did not love the more recent movie. I think that was 2019. It was okay, but I just really loved the 80s movie, and I love this book too. All right, I think this is the only non-horror book in this stack right here. This is The Green Mile. Yeah, it's the movie edition cover. It's got Tom Hanks on the front. I didn't think I was going to like this at all, or if I did like it, it would be just minimal amount, but this is really good. The Shining, this is the one that Stanley Kubrick made his movie based on, and Stephen King doesn't like that movie, and I can kind of see why. I guess this was supposed to be a very personal book for Stephen King, and Stanley Kubrick didn't give a crap. I will say this is a better structured story if you read the book, and the movie is just kind of like it, just atmospheric. It looks neat. Salem's Lot, that's next. It's about vampires. It just feels kind of like Dracula set in modern times a little bit. Before I get, this is the semi-sequel to The Shining. It's the little boy character in The Shining. He grows up for this one, and there's like weird vampire-esque things. They're not like blood-sucking vampires, but they're kind of like vampires that suck the life out of psychic kids or something. Yeah, I thought this one was just okay. We got the Skeleton Crew in Night Shift. These are two more short story collections. This one's from the 70s, this one's from the 80s. Night Shift, there's one in here, what was it called? I forget what the name was. It was something about like this bacteria in this beer turning this kid's dad into this big fungus creature. I love that story, it was awesome, and I was so excited to see the Creepshow TV show did an episode based on that one, so you gotta check that out. Skeleton Crew has The Mist. If you saw the movie The Mist. I didn't see the movie, I know it has a bummer ending. Here's another short story collection from the 90s, Nightmares and Dreamscapes. I have another copy of It. This is a first edition hardcover. There's Stephen King on the back with all his dorky glory. I don't know if that's in focus or not, but yeah. This is a book club edition of Christine. This is the one about the killer car. This is another one of my favorites of his. This is a really good one. This is his newest book, If It Bleeds. It's another short story collection, kind of. I wouldn't say short story, more like a collection of novellas. Overall, I kind of thought this one was a bit meh, but there are two stories that I thought were great. It's Mr. Harrigan's Phone and Rat. They kind of have like a Twilight Zone feel to them. I thought that was great. This one is Sundog. This is another novella. I believe this was originally published in a book of novellas, but they just sold it separately recently, I guess. I won't say much here, but I will say this kind of seemed like a precursor to Smile Dog, the creepypasta character, because there's a camera that takes pictures, but in each picture there's this creepy dog in it. It's not exactly like Smile Dog, but there was like a similarity that I saw. Oh my god, friggin' finally, got the last one. I don't have the cover, or the dust jacket, I think that's what you call it, for this one, but it was another thrift store find. Got it super cheap. It's another one under the Richard Bachman pseudonym. This is Thinner. Thinner kind of felt to me like it could have been like a Tales from the Crypt episode, maybe. Basically, this guy ends up hitting a gypsy with his car, killing her, and then one of the gypsy's relatives puts a curse on him to make him start getting thinner, because he was a big fat guy. And he starts losing weight like crazy, and he's like, oh, this is great, I'm getting thin. What's this diet that's magically working out for me? But then he keeps getting thinner to an unhealthy extent, and you can see how that would be bad. Okay, I think that's it. That's all of them. That was my Stephen King book collection. Hope you enjoyed me going through all of that. Okay, I'm going to leave now.